Morning. Today is April 15th, and the other day many of you were asking about what I meant when I wrote mistrusting banks. Okay, so here's an explanation. Before the Great Depression, banks were generally considered the safest place to put your money. Would you rather have money in your house or on you that can be robbed, or are you going to put it in a bank where it's locked in a safe guarded by men with guns? All right, that was the general feeling amongst the American public. Banks were the safest place to put your money. And not for nothing, dating all the way back to when banks were first introduced, I think probably in the 1400s in Italy, the money that you deposited in the bank was the actual money you got back. Okay, they weren't, or at least the general public didn't realize that banks were investing the money. So in 1929, when the stock market failed and there was the rush on banks. Now, by the way, if you didn't see that video I posted from America, the Story of Us, where the beginning part was about the rush on banks, you should definitely check that out. Happened in the Bronx, actually, according to the History Channel, although I've heard other accounts. But anyway, when there was that initial rush on the banks, and the banks didn't have the money to give to their customers, it freaked a lot of people out. So if they were able to do so, people took their money out of the banks. And then the banks shut down. And anybody who still had the money in the banks were out of luck. They couldn't get that money back. They couldn't get the money back because the banks had to pay off their debts, and that money was gone. So moving forward, during the Great Depression and years after, people didn't trust banks. People would stuff their money in sock drawers, in the freezer, under their mattress. And I don't just mean right after, I mean years out. My grandparents had money stuck in their sock drawer, money stuck in the freezer. And when my grandmother died, we had to go around the house and look for cash, and we found cash in all odd kinds of places. We found cash taped to a beam in the attic. We found cash in a coffee can in the freezer, okay? Because the people who grew up during the Great Depression era, they learned from their parents that you can't trust banks. Now, the biggest problem with this is if people don't trust banks, they're not going to deposit their money in the banks. And if banks don't have money, they can't give out loans. They can't invest in businesses, and the economy is not going to work without banks doing their part. Okay, so this is going to be a big issue moving forward if the United States is going to try to get out of the Depression. They're going to need people to trust banks again, so keep that in mind. All right, so I want to introduce another topic, and it's something that I mentioned when we went over capitalism the first time during the Gilded Age unit with Adam Smith. So Adam Smith talked about something called the economic cycle. So I actually have a slide over here. That's not the slide. This is the slide, okay? The cycle of capitalism. All right, so it works like this. If you look over here, all right? So let's take companies. Companies make money, all right? They make money by selling their goods. When companies are successful and they make money, they're going to give their workers raises, and or they're going to hire more workers. More workers means more production. They can make more money. So when companies hire more people or give their workers raises, workers earn more money. So when you earn more money, you have what's called disposable income. All right? Stuff that's not disposable is paying your rent or your mortgage, buying food, paying your bills. Anything that's left over is disposable income that you can buy, you know, whatever. You can go out to eat with it. You can go to the movies. You can buy Xbox games. That's all disposable income when you've paid all your necessities off. So now workers have disposable income. Workers can now go to the store and they can buy things with that disposable income, more things. And when they do that, that helps companies do well. And then they hire more workers, workers get more money, and so on and so forth. And when the cycle works like this, in a clockwise fashion, the economy keeps doing better and better and better. But now with the Great Depression, boom, companies stop making money. Because when people don't have money, they're not going to buy things. They're not going to buy consumer products. They're not going to buy new cars. They're not going to buy new suits. They're not going to, I mean, Xbox wasn't around back then, but you get the idea. They're not going to buy consumer products like that because they don't have disposable income. They're going to go bare necessities only: food, rent, the heat, that sort of stuff. Okay? So companies start to lose money. When companies lose money, they have to, unfortunately, lay workers off. Okay? That means firing them. There's a different connotation, but they're going to lay workers off. All right? In 2008, the United States experienced a recession, and unfortunately, some of the workers that were laid off first were teachers, and I was one of them. I was laid off in 2008. Okay? So now, I wasn't earning anything. So I couldn't go out and I couldn't spend on the consumer goods that I wanted to. I remember one time going out to meet my friends at a diner, and all I had was a salad, and he had to buy me a beer. It was very embarrassing, but I didn't have the money, and this is what happened during the Great Depression. People didn't have the money to buy consumer goods. Now, let's say that, you generally go to the deli every morning, or the bodega or whatever, get your bacon, egg, and cheese. Now you don't have the money to do that, and a lot of people don't have the money to do that. Now that store is going out of business, or that store has to lay off workers. So it's a nasty cycle, and now it's a downward spiral where companies are going to have to lay people off because nobody has the money to spend on their consumer goods, and more people become unemployed, and more people can't spend money on consumer goods, and lots of companies go out of business. So that's what led to that rampant unemployment. It didn't happen overnight. It took a year, maybe 2 years, but by 1931, the unemployment rate was at around 25%. So that's how we get to what we're talking about with the Great Depression, with everybody unemployed, people crisscrossing the country, and it's not just hobos; it's whole families getting in their car and just heading out to where they think there are jobs. Hobos are just going all over the place, leaving their families, trying to find work. Some of them would send money when they would find a job. They'd send money back to their families. Some of them would just outright leave. Their families would never see them again, never hear from them again. It was a tough time. Now, in the Google form, I'd asked, do you feel more or less empathy towards the people who experienced the Great Depression now that we're going through all this with COVID-19, people not making money? All right, I'm sure some of you are in that boat where your parents are home, they can't go to work, they're not making any money, and the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Time out. Julian, could you leave me alone? The International Monetary Fund has said that we can expect an economic downturn akin to the Great Depression. I don't know if that's true. I hope it's not. My son's interested in the video. Julian, say hi to everybody.
Hey.
Now get lost. I don't remember what I was saying, but the IMF saying that we might experience another Great Depression. God, I hope not. But the good part about that is, even though we can't really pinpoint what caused the Great Depression, we can kind of figure out how we got out of the Great Depression. Honestly, the only thing that really got us out of the Great Depression was World War II, because we switched to a wartime economy, and then you're talking about car companies like Ford and General Motors who weren't selling a single friggin' car. Now they're making tanks, okay? Suit companies like Hickey Freeman, Not selling any suits, but now they're making uniforms. Okay? So a wartime economy is what really got us out of the Great Depression. But we also did some other things where the United States government pumped money into the cycle of capitalism, so to speak. Okay? And it was Franklin Roosevelt with something called the New Deal, which we'll go over tomorrow, where he pumped money into this. Okay? He created jobs. The federal government created jobs to give people money so that they could spend it on consumer products, so that companies could do well, so that they could hire more people. Okay? That's one way of doing it, creating jobs. Another way people did it is, let's take President Obama, for example, in 2000, I think it was 2009, maybe 2008. He bailed out the automotive companies in Detroit. He pumped billions of dollars into the automobile industry, like General Motors and the American-made companies. So he attacked it right here. He gave companies money so that they could hire people and so that those people could have money to spend and so on and so forth. Okay? And that kind of worked. All right? What's happening right now is that the federal government and President Trump are attacking this part. They're giving individual Americans stimulus checks. And I'm sure a lot of your families received a stimulus check today or yesterday. So they're hoping that if they can give people money, people can then spend their money and companies can stay afloat. They don't have to close down or shut down. So we'll see how that works. Every person has a different idea about how they can attack this cycle of capitalism. But you know, I don't know if a war is going to work, but we'll see. Let's all just try and stay strong, try and ride this out, try and stay safe, and worry about the economics later. All right? I hope everybody's doing well, and you can look forward to more videos from me. I will be posting some other YouTube clips, not from me, but some other YouTube clips today. All right? So have a great day, and stay safe, and stay positive, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.